Hey friends, I'm Jill and welcome back to A Spring Willow Farm. Today's video has been a video I've been waiting to share with you guys for almost 9 months now. That seems really wild listening to it. This video is definitely going to be different than any video I've done in the past. I have an announcement I want to share with you guys, and so that is what this video is going to be. It's going to be short and sweet, but I'm going to share with you guys a project that I have been working on. It has just been such an extension of my heart, and I'm excited that the day is finally here that I can share it with you all. So before I get started, I'm going to pop in a video that was sent to me by my friend Ashley over at Uncommon Roots Homestead from December 29th, 2020.
What have you ever thought about, and this is totally random, I literally just thought of it as I was sitting here and doing dishes and just kind of thinking through what we've been talking about and just kind of, praying a little bit. And so just let me know your gut reaction and then take some time and think about it. But have you ever thought about a podcast? I know that sounds like intimidating, but it really actually isn't. And then like focusing on kind of like a seat, like having a seat at the table, but that everyone has a spot in the garden. And then that kind of plays into sustainability and what we were talking about, that if everyone just did something small, it could make a really big impact, and that is your spot in the garden, right?
So that was my friend Ashley asking me what I thought about starting a podcast with her. Now, initially, I thought, yeah, that would be awesome. I love podcasts. I listen to them every day, especially when we're driving in the car or working in the garden. I always have headphones in, just listening to podcasts. But at the time, I didn't think I had the time. And I had just finished recording the Growing Gardeners course with Jessica, which is now available for those of you who may be interested. We have been receiving some messages about that. But I had just done this really big project, and I honestly didn't know if I could take on another really big project. And so I had actually told her, hey, I think this is a really great idea. I would love to revisit this idea. I just don't know that right now is the best time for me. And so we kind of talked through it, and we loosely shot the idea around that we would come back and revisit it January 2022. And I said, okay, great. Well, we'll put it back on the radar. We'll come back and revisit it. And it was months later. I was sitting on my old back porch at this table, listening to a podcast, having my devotional time, and feeling a lot of heaviness, if I'm being really honest. I was feeling a lot of heaviness just with things going on in the world. I was feeling a lot of heaviness with all these people disagreeing about things. And I felt conviction, really. It was just a lot of conviction of why are we not having more grace-filled conversations? Why can I not have a conversation with someone I don't agree with and there still be grace? And that's what I just felt like that was missing so much. And it was such this heavy burden I had taken on. And I remember marching inside telling Nathan, I'm like, listen, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I got to do it. This message has to be told. We have got to extend grace to people we don't agree with. We have got to hear the other side of the story. We have got to have conversations in love and forgiveness and covered in grace. And I was like, and I know that Ashley and I could create a space for this, and I feel like now's the time we got to do it. And y'all have probably followed me long enough to know that I'm a dreamer, and sweet old Nathan just goes along with it. And he was like, if you feel like you need to do it, I'll support you. And I'll never forget calling Ashley, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I know I'm busier than I've ever been, but I know that this message has got to be out there. We got to do this. So let's dive in and let's do it. We will make it work. And we did. We dove head first. We literally have spent countless hours. Her and her husband came down May 29th. If you guys remember, we shot a lot of footage and we recorded our first podcast episode. And here are some photos from that very first recording in the living room. We had no idea what we were doing. We stayed up until 1 o'clock in the morning trying to just figure out equipment. And it was just such a really fun learning, growing experience, but we had so many wonderful real life conversations that night, and we dreamed about what this podcast would look like, and it felt so good, you guys. So that weekend while she was here, we recorded a video for our Instagram, kind of announcing it and saying what our heart was. And so I'm also going to plug that video in here where you guys can kind of get a little sneak peek of what we were envisioning for the Stewarding Well podcast. Hello, beautiful people. I am here with my friend Ashley. We have been working on something for several months now. We are so excited. It's officially out, so now we're going to tell you guys we created a podcast. It is called Stewarding Well. It is really just an extension of our hearts and the conversations we have at our table. We're talking about sustainability. We're talking about
getting back to the land.
Yes.
We're talking about creating a world that we all want to live in and that for generations we can live in.
Yeah, we are so excited to be having these conversations. We want to extend
an invitation
for you guys to come listen. We love your feedback on this. It just seems so crazy. You know, you've worked on something for so long and then it's like here and you're like, oh my gosh. That is how I feel. Ashley and I have finished the entire first season of the Stewarding Well podcast. Our pilot episode is now out on the Stewarding Well podcast website, which I will link below. And tomorrow, our first legitimate episode drops. It is a longer one. And I just wanted to kind of talk to you guys through my heart, and I know I'm speaking for Ashley as well, her heart behind all of this. There's a lot of podcasts out there, you guys. There's a lot of really good podcasts out there. We wanted this to be different because we feel like there's a lot of grace missing in these conversations. There's a lot of grace missing in our culture today. Now, I'll be honest with you, it would be extremely easy for Ashley and I to have created a podcast with someone that we saw eye to eye on, right? Someone that we had all the same beliefs, we had all the same practices, we just saw eye to eye. That it's easy to create a podcast or even have a friendship with like-minded people. Now, granted, Ashley is one of my dear friends. We are very like-minded in a lot of things, but we see differently on majority of the things. And that was really why I thought this was a really good marrying, because we're inviting you guys to come grab your cup of coffee, your sweet tea, your glass of wine, whatever floats your boat. We're encouraging you guys to come grab your drink, have a seat at our table, and let's have a conversation with someone who doesn't see eye to eye. And we want to show you guys how we are navigating having a grace-filled conversation with someone on the other side of the table that maybe doesn't look like you, that maybe doesn't think like you, maybe doesn't do anything like you. And encouraging you, there's still a space for them, there's still a space for you, and this is actually how we steward things well. We feel so called to steward the earth well, to steward our families well, to steward friendships well. It was just such a deep calling that we knew we had to do it, and we were going to figure it out along the way. Like I said, neither one of us had really done anything like this before. It was definitely taking a leap of faith, but I'm so glad because it has stretched both of us so much, and the response has been really, really good. It's been overwhelmingly good because I think this is something that a lot of us are trying to figure out, especially just in, I'm not about to get political. That is something I do not ever even talk about. But just in today's age, there's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of people that disagree with what you're doing, with what you're not doing, and it just becomes heavy. And I feel like if we can learn how to navigate conversations with grace, if we can raise up a generation that learns how to navigate conversations with grace, if we spend our time talking about, gardening and sustainability and cultivating the earth well and stewarding the earth well, I really think that we're setting up a solid foundation to pass on to the next generation. And that's my heart. What I'm doing here, I'm doing for my kids, right? Like I'm doing to teach them that what we're doing, this type of lifestyle is work, but it's worth it. Friendships are hard, but they're worth pursuing. Sometimes you're not going to agree, and that's okay. God calls us to love and work through that. And that is exactly what this podcast is. We are having a lot of really hard conversations, and they're going to be filled with a whole lot more grace. And so I'm excited. I'm so excited to finally have this out here and tell you guys about it. So my hope is that you guys will listen to it, that y'all will subscribe to our email list and get notified when those new episodes drop. And it's just a really cool way for us to dive deeper. I spend a lot of this platform doing vlogs and teaching more in the summer and things like that. And the podcast was just a way for us to kind of dive deeper and have those conversations that are a little bit harder to navigate on this platform. And so I'm excited. I hope you guys will join us on this journey of stewarding well and just really captivating what that actually means for us personally and hopefully for you guys as well. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Stewarding Well Podcast. I'm Jill.
And I'm Ashley.
And we're talking about sustainable living,
Getting back to the land.
and cultivating a better tomorrow.